Joining us now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline, former head basketball coach at BYU, friend of the program, Steve Cleveland. Coach, great to have you with us on a big game day. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I hope you guys are doing well. It sounds like you're doing well.
Yeah. You know, anytime we have Jason and his super optimistic outlooks on the set, it makes everybody feel a little bit better. Now, we're interested to get your takes on what you expect from the BYU men tonight. They came home, speaking of the Cougars, took care of business against Portland and Santa Clara, but now they go to a place where they have historically struggled in WCC play. What are your expectations for the men tonight in Malibu?
Well, I expect them to have additional confidence that they got from beating Portland and beating Santa Clara in a close game. I think that history, we know what it's been like for BYU there. I mean, they've lost in 14, 15, 16, and 17 in pretty close games. Last year they won an OT game. So it's been a tough place. The last 5 times they played there, they're 1-4. However, I really thought going into the year that Pepperdine would be down a little bit, but Colby Ross, Eric Cooper, Darnell Dunn, they still have really, really good guard play. I think it's going to be a really difficult place to play. However, that being said, I think BYU matches up well with them. This is not a team that has a great deal of size or a little bit undersized. I think key to this game will be able to defend the guard, stay in front of them, don't let them go north-south and get where they want to get and have wide-open shots. It's not a great three-point shooting team, but it is an athletic team and a team that BYU certainly isn't going to overlook. And, and Pepperdine obviously is always excited to play BYU.
You mentioned the 2 games last week, both wins for BYU. What specifically do you think BYU can take from those games out on the road this week?
I think, first of all, I mentioned it's just to increase confidence, number one. Number two is that, they went with some different starting lineups. They went with some different folks. They had some success. They got 17 points against Portland off the bench. Portland not being a very good basketball team, obviously. But the win at Santa Clara, beating Santa Clara, who is much improved. They shot the ball well from the 3. Haas hit big shots. There was confidence there. They defended better. However, they did not defend the 3 very well. Santa Clara shot 45% from the three-point line. But I think there's confidence. I think there's an energy there. I think with the new lineup, I think there's some belief in going forward. But it's going to take more than that starting lineup. I mean, this is a game where the bench is going to have to score 12, 14, 15 points if they expect to go there and win. But those are some of the things that I think that they took from it. Worthington's playing better and providing leadership and a really strong work ethic.
Steve Cleveland with us on BYU Sports Nation, previewing BYU at Pepperdine men's basketball tonight at Firestone Fieldhouse. That game tips off at 11 Eastern, 9 Mountain on ESPNU. Coach, you bring up the bench. Who are the bench guys that you think and feel need to step up for BYU tonight?
Well, I think the guys that have been coming off the bench, certainly Selyus is a guy that's been in a program a couple of years. We're still kind of waiting on Nick, and hopefully we're all hopeful that he'll have a breakout. It's obvious that I think Baxter's going to get more additional time now. He's athletic. He's going to get an opportunity. Nixon's not playing as much. But I would say that's where it starts. Hartnett, Jashir, I don't think he's still cleared to play. That's a tough situation. But certainly Selyus and Emery are guys coming off the bench, and Baxter, guys coming off the bench that can play at this level, and they're going to need to play really well if the expectation is to try to go in and win both these games.
You mentioned Nick Emery. Are the expectations for him, and I'm talking about from outside, I'm not talking within, but are they unfair at this point of his comeback, do you think?
Yeah, I don't think people realize. I mean, none of us can really understand what Nick's gone through the past 12 months. I'm sure he has his own expectations and is probably disappointed. But the last 12 months, emotionally, mentally, physically, it's been tough. And that being said, I think we know that we saw him as a freshman average 16 points a game. We saw him as a sophomore average 13. We love that aggressive, all-out style of play. I still believe in my heart that there will be a time in this season where Nick breaks out of it, and he'll have a really positive impact on this team. And I'm hoping that starts tonight. But I know it's there. I know there are a lot of things going on, and I think your emotional mindset has to be right to be successful at this level. But I think Nick is driven. I know that it's not been easy, but I am quite certain, just knowing Nick, that he expects more of himself. And I think we're going to see it, to be honest with you.
Coach, you've worked with all types of personalities and handled all types of situations. So if you were to have a conversation with Nick right now, what would you say to him before the BYU Pepperdine game?
You know, I would tell him how much I believed in him, how much I trusted in him. I think I'd go back and watch film, and maybe have done that before we even went on the road trip, to watch film in 2016 and 2017, and let him have the mindset: get out and defend, attack off the dribble, get to the free throw line. You know, the free throws, big free throws he made had a huge role in that win at Pacific. But he can get out there and defend. He can get out and attack off the dribble. And certainly this team is about pounding that thing to Yoli and TJ. The two of them have. But there is a place for a third guy. And in my mind, it's a different guy, it seems, every game. I still believe that Nick can be that guy. And so as a coach, you know, I mean, it may be a situation where I get in a practice facility and just spend time with him by himself, just the two of us, and having those conversations, doing everything you can to let him know that I trust him, that I believe in him, and that he can do this. And don't get down when it doesn't go well. Just keep competing. You'll work your way through it. But I always like watching film, and I think watching film of him being successful and even him making shots during the course of the year helps that mindset.
Coach Rose said that he's known Lorenzo Romar, he said probably 25 years or so. He used to come down, he said, and recruit guys from Dixie. This is a guy that's a very accomplished college basketball coach, speaking of Coach Romar. And honestly, he's taken the same personnel from last year and has them playing better on both ends. They're averaging about 10 more points than they did last year. They're giving up 5 points less. How has he influenced this Pepperdine team?
Well, I think, number one, when there's a coaching change, there's new energy, there's new schemes, and everybody kind of buys in. They want to be better than they were. The other thing is they're 1 year older, too. And they had some young players, and now they're a year later. They've learned some lessons. And, you know, they had USF. I mean, they're basically up on USF with 26 seconds to go. Had a chance to win that game. USF, you know, came back and beat them. But this has kind of been the surprise team for me. We'll see what happens over the long course of things here. But Lorenzo has them playing at a very high level with a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm. And he does have good guards. And Cameron Edwards is a legitimate. He's a little undersized big, but he's very active. So the pieces were there. I think they came in with a new system. Guys have gotten confidence in it. And really, I think, have been the surprise team in the WCC.
Coach, right now we're a quarter of the way through the West Coast Conference campaign. BYU 3-1 and alone in second place. What's a fair expectation, having seen what you've seen from the Cougars through 19 games this season, as to where they will finish when the West Coast Conference regular season is wrapped up?
You know, that's kind of where, realistically, this road trip will determine a lot of this, because you go into Pepperdine and San Francisco and win. Now you're looking at possibly being a second place team. I think this is still Gonzaga's lead until somebody proves it differently, and they've been so dominant that so they've had close games. I mean, it's not that they can't be beat, and certainly they can be beat, but I think it's fair to assume that BYU can still finish in the top three. But this road trip, if they go and get swept in this road trip, that's going to be really difficult to dig out of that and finish in the top three. Right now, you got to look at San Francisco. They're 14-3, 45 Kim Palm, NC2A at-large team. They're playing with a lot of confidence. They had a great opportunity to beat Gonzaga at home. I will say this about USF. BYU can guard USF. They are better defending a Princeton team where they're going east-west instead of north-south. Yes, there are back cuts, but I've watched Coach Rose's teams. They've always been really successful in guarding that. I think they're just set up better to guard a Princeton offense than they are one that is constantly attacking off ball screens and breaking people down, where BYU struggled at times in guarding the ball.
It's about matchups, and I think sometimes we overlook that. Coach, great stuff, great insight. We appreciate you joining the program as always, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Steve Cleveland on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, your values, your timeline, your financial future.